you on your own.
Thanks, Rick.
Brian West sent me a text saying he's on the way.
Oh, by the way, he's coming from Woodland Park. Never, he didn't say that. Hey, Rick, you want to sit up? Would you like sitting up here? Just to knock me in the head and say Scott's first, Ed's third, or whatever? I would like somebody, anybody. He hasn't given us the chance to start arguing something.
All right.
You ready?
I'm on your side.
Red light, that means you're
All you got to do
live.
is let me know I'm overlooking somebody. It's 1 o'clock on Wednesday, October 2nd. I'd like to say thank you to all of you who have made it here today. I understand there's at least one more coming, but everybody, all alternates, will be voting today, and we do have a quorum. First item of business, the purpose statement for the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority is as follows. The primary objective of the CAC is to ensure the capital, maintenance, and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters at the November 6, 2012 and November 7, 2017. Our ballot measures are accomplished with PPRTA funds. The committee reports directly to the Board of Directors on the Wednesday following this meeting. And before we go any further, to advise you, Mr. Godfrey is on his annual pilgrimage of hot air. He's in Albuquerque with the hot air balloons, and he enjoys himself immensely, so more power to him. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce a new member it's from the HAC, but Mr. Robertson, would you like to say anything? We can go around. Literally, we are giving you a chance to introduce yourself and give your history or what you want, what you know.
I am happy to be here. I had a good meeting with the guy I noticed that probably runs everything yesterday, Mr. Sonnenberg, and he gave me about a 6-foot stack of material to read before today, which I did not manage. But other than that, I'll just say that all of my career has really basically been in the highway field with some assignments in the planning area, but in those areas I still stayed in highways. So I tend to be a very strong advocate for highway projects over anything else. Thank you.
Well, welcome aboard. I would take the time, but you will get to know all of them. All of the people here are free to speak their mind, and they'll get their opportunity. So don't be bashful. I know the young lady next to you is hesitant at times and rarely says anything, but the young man on the other side of you will speak up frequently. But no, seriously, it's a great group. They're very dedicated. So,
Amen.
all right, the agenda is in front of you. I entertain a motion to approve it or adjust it.
So move with the exception of 8B, which is not in the packet.
All right. 8.
He needs to be postponed or amended agenda. You can either
There's a motion to amend the agenda to take item 8B off. Tom?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Tom Biersma and a second by Cheryl to amend the agenda and delete item 8B, I think. Yeah, there it is. Is there any other items or any other exceptions to the agenda? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? None? Sorry, I'm making notes. All right, public comment for items not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Approval of the minutes from September 4th meeting, regular meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the September 4th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
As written.
As written.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. I love this young lady. She's always giving great news. I'm sorry? I know. It's because of you, Bev, not because of your reports.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. So on the first page of the financial reports, you can see that in July, we had $10,206,000, and we're ahead of budget, almost $1.4 million, or 15.9%. And we don't ever get over $10 million until December usually, so quite a good July, and all categories were up except for automobiles, so pretty much all categories. Well, but that was last year. So what'll be interesting is August, because August of last year is when everybody started replacing cars. So we might have a downturn compared to actual. But our budget has stayed very at the 100 million, so we still should be fine. But on page 2, it shows how much we're ahead of last year's actual, which is $993,000 for the month, or 10.78%. In year-to-date, we're ahead $3,626,000. Then the rest of the pages, I'm wondering, does anybody have any questions concerning the financial reports? Yeah, if anybody ever has anything that they want to ask me and send me an email, that's great too. Okay.
You said that pretty much everything was up except for automobiles. Was there anything that really stuck out as really jumping? Like
Not really. They were just all up, just across the board. So, yeah. So any questions? None? Okay.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, we'll bring Mr. Mike Chavez. Good morning, Mike. Good afternoon, Mike. Good day. I should have been back east.
Good afternoon, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. I have 3 items for your review today. First one is on maintenance contract with Lucky Dog to provide closed-circuit TV inspections of storm sewer pipe underneath roads in its various locations throughout the city that operations and maintenance have, and that's for $75,000. Next item is contract to do cast-in-place pipelining of storm sewer under roads with CNL Solutions, and that's for a couple locations, Mirage Drive up north, and then on Marlin Road, and so there's some pipe underneath the road that are in bad shape, and so they'll be lining those. And then the last item I have is a contract to do basically some, they call it a cycle track, but basically what that is on Fountain between Wasatch and the Shooks Run Trail, which is, I think, Corona. They're going to be putting in basically a separated bikeway so that it connects the bike lanes on Wasatch with the Shooks Run Trail. And there'll be, I believe there's a curb head, asphalt curb head, and then there's a two-way lane there for cyclists and pedestrians to use.
Tony?
Is that, you said it's going to be a separated track. Is it taking part of the street there?
No, it's
One street bikeway?
that section of road is very wide, so it's actually just, I think and I meant to bring the plans, but basically it's not going to take a lane off. The roadway will stay the same. I think that's all we have this month. It's kind of a light month.
Are any questions? Yes, Carlos.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. A question about the pre-overlay program. What is that specifically? The pre-overlay, is that what is that? Can you just go into a little bit more detail as to what that means?
You know what? I'm going to let Dave Scalfrey, who's operations maintenance, explain that better than I can.
Good afternoon, Dave Scalfrey with Public Works Operations and Maintenance. So to answer your question, the pre-overlay pipe program addresses any storm pipes that are underneath a roadway that is scheduled for overlay. And what we do is most generally put pipe liners in those situations such as that to ensure longevity of the pipe itself and, of course, for the roadway. So, we absolutely do not, I know all of us who would agree, we sure wouldn't want a failure in the roadway after we pave it. So in this instance, Lucky Dog Contracting is being awarded a contract to actually go and perform closed-circuit television inspection of smaller diameter pipes that we actually can't put a human being inside of safely.
Carlos?
Yeah, and then a follow-up question. This may come up because Mirage Drive is in my neighborhood. That's been overlaid already by the 2C program. So is this is a pre-overlay, or is this a different portion of the project there because that street has already been overlaid?
That is correct. And so that one, and actually the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo Road as well, those both were paved, and they were deemed safe enough to pave that these pipes would hold up long enough to where we could at least get things under contract later in the season and get these still lined in a safe time window. So that is a common practice. However, most generally we want to be ahead of the program. There are those instances, such as these two, that we deem them safe enough to go ahead and pave, but just so we can get in there late season, end of season, and get them lined and secured.
Well, so you're not going to need to cut into that pavement, or are you going to have to? So in other words, it's not going to require the overlay to be cut into. You can go underneath the roadway and put in this liner. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
And so anything that occurs as for anything after the overlay is included in this pre-overlay program as well. So in other words, it's really kind of pipe maintenance, not really pre-overlay or post-overlay program.
It's just the name of the program, and so it's pipes. I guess it's pipes associated with the overlay program.
It doesn't imply a particular sequencing, but the preferred is to get in there before the overlay. But in this two instances,
yes, sir,
the overlay has occurred, but we need to go in after the overlay to do this maintenance. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. That was my question.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have a question or a motion?
Motion.
Not yet, then. Here.
On the cycle track, I was just wondering why 8 of the 9 contractors declined to bid.
I'm not real sure. I think part of it is they're pretty busy, and and just they're, yeah, I think so.
All right, Mike, I have the same question on the same subject. Shook's Run primarily is the traffic, bicycle traffic is coming from the north. I don't know whether there's an underpass to get you across Fountain or not. But is the bike lane dual going to be on Fountain, on the south side of Fountain, or the north side? And also, you're on the north, or I think you said where is it on Wasatch? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's on the west side of Wasatch. The east side has the railroad and very limited space, but you're going to have 2 bike lanes. How are they going to get across, for the sake of discussion, Cimarron, going north on Wasatch?
I'm not real sure about that. I know there are bike lanes on Wasatch that come down to Fountain. This 2-way cycle track is on the north side of Fountain, and there's some intersection work. Like I said, I'll bring the plans to the board next week. But basically, as you come down, up and down from Wasatch, there'll be connections so that you can get on this 2-way cycle track on the north side and go over to Shook's Run or come back the other way.
But no traffic light?
No.
Because there was originally a roundabout there, and you're doing away with it.
Well, there's not a roundabout right now, is there?
No.
No. So there's no signal. It's basically, it's just basically putting a bike pedestrian way on the north side, 2-way, so that we don't have to go to the south side.
Okay. Joan?
I would move recommendation of the city's contract list items 1, 2, and 3 as presented.
Second.
I'm sorry, who? Tony? Did you get it? Or is any more discussion? Any questions? All approve? All in favor? All, anybody against?
All right, thank you.
Jennifer?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Committee. Welcome, Mr. Robertson, Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. Today I have one contract item to present to you. It's our preliminary design contract for Beacon Light Road. Just want to give you a little bit of history about this project. This project was added onto our PPRTA capital extension list. It has been kind of a bypass for I-25 for quite some time, and we've identified a specific need to make improvements to this road. It is currently a gravel road, and we are upgrading it to become a paved road and doing drainage improvements, looking at turn lane improvements, and then also doing shoulders on this road. I would also note that specifically we have kind of pushed this project to this time frame because as the I-25 GAP project came along, we recognize that there may be a replacement of that County Line Road bridge, which affects the intersection of Beacon Light at County Line Road. And so we kind of purposely pushed this project back to make sure that if that did occur, that we could coordinate. We went ahead and moved forward with the contract, including some coordination efforts into that contract. And I just heard back from CDOT that they have found some bridge enterprise money and are going to be moving forward with replacing that bridge. So that's really great. Now the final money hasn't come through, but I anticipate that it's pretty likely. So we are moving ahead anyway, and so it's a good time to be moving ahead with that preliminary design. So we are going to we are asking for approval of this preliminary contract. It's about $407,000, and would note that it's for preliminary design only, so we will be coming back at a future date for the second phase of that when we are ready to get into final design.
Jennifer, I have a question. The yellow section on your map that you put on here starts at Wakanda Way. Is that the extent of what will be paved, or is that just this piece?
I believe the section south of Wakanda Way is already paved, and some of it is actually in the town of Monument. So that's the section that we will be designing. We will be looking at that intersection. So do the and then we'll be looking at
stuff get extended south or not?
We'll be looking at it, but just kind of put in, to the map that this is the main portion of the project. So we'll be looking at that section. We also want to be careful about not doing improvements within the town of Monument, who is not a member of the PPRTA.
Cheryl?
Jennifer, is there any long-term plan to open discussions with the town of Monument for their adoption of this road? It's within their city limits, right?
Some of it to the south is. We are going to be looking at a lot of coordination with the city of Colorado Springs into some of our roadways. We've already done that. In this section, this is definitely rural, and it's definitely, I don't expect them to, want to, take that over. There are other places that we are coordinating with the town of Monument and looking at either swaps of roads or, as development comes in, asking them to annex it. But this is not, the section here is not part of that at this point. I don't anticipate that that would ever, unless there's significant redevelopment, to go into the town of Monument. Not in the near future, anytime.
I move to recommend approval.
Second.
Brian made the motion. You can take your pick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Appreciate your consideration.
All right. City of Colorado Springs Transit,
I suspect that they might have forgotten to change that. So maybe we just hold off.
I'll tell you what, we're going to table.
Usually not on until 4 anyway.
There's a smart aleck in every crack. I'm going to table agenda item 7A for now. And we will go to PPRTA 2 status report. Is that from, it's from
I'll
Rick.
start it. A few months ago, the board of directors decided that they wanted to start focusing on PPRTA 3 and developing a timeline since we are now about 58 days from the midpoint of PPRTA 2. We're just at the 5th year of the 10 years of PPRTA 2. Time flies, Brian, yeah. So they've asked for quarterly reports from the 5-member governments. Probably don't need one from Rayma, but so the other 4 to start planning, or to start looking at, particularly City of Colorado Springs and El Paso counties, plans for getting their PPRTA 2 capital projects done, and to look ahead to look at that plan and then try to decide whether the board wants to go to the voters for PPRTA 3 either in 2022 or 2024. So this is the second of those quarterly reports, and I'm sure they will be revised and refined over time. But I've put at your place the late arriving report from Green Mountain Falls. Of course, they just have 2 projects. They have Belvedere and Stilling Basins. And Jennifer, I'll get you one in a minute, and Mike. But in your packet, you do have El Paso counties and the City of Colorado Springs Transit, because Transit in PPRTA 2 did have 4 capital projects, so they need to report their progress as well as we go through the timeline of PPRTA 2. And then you have City of Colorado Springs, and Mike has developed his 11 by 17. So this is just for information, and it'll obviously go to the board next week. But again, it's an effort, and I'm sure the board will ask for revisions in the display so they can, at some point in the next few quarters, look at the plan and how much has been completed, how much is planned to be completed, so they can decide sometime in the next 6 to 12 months which of the 2 years to go to the voters for PPRTA 3, either 2022 or 2024. So if you have any questions about the reports themselves, I'll step aside and let Jennifer, Mike, and Brian answer any questions you might have about their quarterly reports.
Cheryl?
Oh, I just wanted to commend Mike on the 11 by 17. It's so easily understandable. It's easy to read. For us lay people, it's just a marvelous tool. So thank you, Mike.
Any other comments? Questions? All right, that's an information-only item. And we now have Brian here representing Transit. Would you like to take your turn now? Take your turn now.
Good afternoon, Brian Vitulli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit. Apologize for being late, but that's what happens when you take the bus. Sometimes schedules don't align with starts of meetings. If we were on for 1:30, I would have been good, but and usually we don't get to me until like an hour and a half into the meeting. So okay, all right.
I would ask if that means you're going to change the bus schedule? Contemplate.
Just a second.
I don't do good with this going.
I'd like to see the board make that a report.
What's that?
That's a nice sheet.
Okay, for your monthly transit report for the month of August of this year compared to August of 2018, our fixed route operations provided almost 308,000 one-way trips. We show a ridership gain of just about 4.7% over the August of 2018. So again, we're on a pretty good streak here, and ridership is looking really strong. For our ADA paratransit services, we saw a decrease of just about 8% for that same time period. And we operated 25 van pools in August of this year, and that shows a slight decrease of 2.25% compared to that same time frame. Just a project update. We implemented our fall service change on Sunday. Most of those improvements won't take effect until this Saturday because it was adding Saturday evening service to 13 routes. So the same routes that operate weekday service in the evening will operate Saturday evening service. But also on Sunday started the 5 highest ridership routes. Frequency was increased from 60 minutes to 30 minutes on those routes on Sundays. And project update, the ongoing 2045 Regional Transit Plan and Specialized Transportation Coordination Plan is ongoing. And we had our second stakeholder meeting last week. And this is a project that's moving along very quickly, and we expect to have it pretty much completed by the end of this year or early 2020, and then it will be incorporated into PPACG's Regional Transportation Plan. And again, this is a joint planning process. Not only are we doing our long-range transit plan, but PPACG is doing their specialized transportation plan using the same consultant team and the same planning process. And our North Nevada Avenue Transit corridor analysis is ongoing. We're looking to have another stakeholder meeting here. I don't believe a date's been set for that, but we had our first one on August 28th. Now we're starting to look at trying to flesh out the the mode that gets picked, primarily whether it's a continuation of the fixed route services we operate now, or perhaps better frequency, express buses, bus rapid transit light, bus rapid transit heavy, streetcar, light rail. We look at all those alternatives and what the projected population and employment projections will be long-term. That will help determine what type of mode that we operate in the corridor. And we're also starting to look at alignments. How do we operate between downtown and UCCS and north? Do we, use that designated railway corridor that's on the east side of Nevada Avenue in between Fillmore and Austin Bluffs? Or do we operate on Weber and go through? That's what this project will identify. And then we'll identify service levels. Do we go to 5 or 7 minute frequencies during peak times? And so it's an exciting project, and I probably have said this before, but this is really the first time we've been looking at something like this for the Springs area. So this is a keystone project. And I identified the project websites. We have project websites for both of those, so you can visit those to see what we've been looking at and what we expect to be looking at in the coming months.
Thank you for this.
Sure.
Good information.
Good. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Brian?
I do have a question. On the fixed route, right of center, interesting. On the fixed route upgrades that you guys have done, the Saturday evening service, how long of an evaluation period do you have before you know whether or not those are going to be cost effective?
Well, we will, we track ridership monthly, and even though this report looks at the same month from the year prior, we'll be looking at that information ongoing, so we'll see. We should know quickly. Sometimes it takes some time to build a ridership base, especially for new services, but for something like this, I would think we would know, fairly soon, comparing, Saturdays prior to the service change and ongoing. It's kind of a hard thing to measure because we haven't had any Saturday evening service, so of course it's going to be good. So it's going to be positive ridership on Saturday evening.
The only reason I ask is I just want to make sure, because like you said, it does take time for word to get out.
Right.
And I didn't want you guys to kind of short yourselves
Right.
on the evaluation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, a little bit long-term, and we do annual ridership totals. We just total up the monthly ridership that we collect. But, we should start to see, comparing Saturdays from 2018 to 2019, even though there will only be a few months left of 2019. But going forward, 2020, we would hope to see, a strong increase in Saturday ridership.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other, Larry?
Yes, Brian, I'd just like to make a comment, and that is I'm very encouraged by what you're doing in getting more people onto the buses in Colorado Springs with the expansion of service, changing levels of service, things of that nature. Because it's really interesting. I just read an article in the Denver Post where they have had a major decrease in their ridership, both on the buses and on the rail lines, over this past year. So it's really encouraging to see that our numbers, even though they're small in relationship to Denver, still it's an upward trend. So that's good.
Right. Yeah, and we're encouraged by that. And, you bring up a really good point. For the past couple of years, 2017 and 2018, some of the really large transit systems have been seeing ridership declines, especially on their bus services. Sometimes that's coordinated with increases in their light rail service or commuter rail service or ridership numbers. But, It's a tough thing to pin down, and a lot of times you ask me, from month to month, what do I think that ridership decline from 3 months ago was? Was it weather? Was it, what I've been consistently saying is it's really hard to pin your finger on it, but it's a combination of a really strong economy. Sometimes, ridership dips when the economy's strong and people have access to better jobs. Car sales are up, fuel prices are still relatively low. So all those things sometimes work against transit ridership. But yeah, we have been lucky. We've somewhat stayed away from the ridership declines in bus systems. And while we're kind of smaller in scale, I think it kind of goes to, when you cut your system by half, during the Great Recession, and you really have no place to go but up. But we've also been adding, a lot of great improvements over the last several years, and the additional RTA revenues have been strong and has allowed us to do a lot of that. Some additional city general fund increases have helped. So, yeah, we hope it continues. But thanks for your comments.
Brian, I was going to just chime in. Don't short yourselves. You guys have done a really good job of planning and laying out a system that works for the city and the regional area that surrounds the city on a very tight budget. So I think that goes to, the proper usage of taxpayer funds in the best way possible. So you guys deserve a lot of credit for the type of planning and how you roll things out. So yeah, don't short yourselves.
All right, thank you. And we do have another closed session with City Council this coming Monday on the downtown transit center situation. So hopefully next month I'll be able to give an update. No promises, because I don't know how Monday's going to go, but there are pretty frequent discussions happening at the City Council level. So hopefully we're getting to a point where we'll have something to release soon. So.
Is that it? Sorry, Rick.
Per our discussion last month on the bus stop at Platt and Circle, I'd like to kind of apologize a little bit. I was educated on why you don't want the cutouts. It's easier to stay in traffic than to get back in traffic. And with the tight schedules that you have to keep for stops and trips, I now understand better why you don't want the cutouts. Yeah, I'm not really agreeable on where the bus stop is, so close to the corner, but I do understand the challenge you folks have on that. So I've been educated on it. I apologize if I stepped out last month.
Thank you for the comments. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Turned it off for him. I'd like to make a comment about his list of scheduled, and this is not you, Brian.
Okay.
It's Mike's. I really think it's exceptional. It's a great idea. I only have one problem that I've seen, and there's been several very positive comments, Mike, about your chart. The coloring. The color orange, was it picked before or after Sunday's game? And the color green, are you colorblind? Was it really supposed to be a dark blue, and you didn't realize that? Never mind. Anyway, thank you very much. It's very good. What? Well, I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
They are just as fast as any government entity. Mike? Are you going to do? You're going to do Pete? Who's going to do Dublin? Or never mind. I'll ask you when it comes up.
No, this is,
We don't have it in our packet, so this is new.
this is just Mike Chavez, City Engineering. This is just a little discussion item that I wanted to talk, because it's going to have to go to the board. So basically, the northeast part of the Springs is growing. I haven't been out there until about a week ago. I took my son out to go help a friend, and I just couldn't believe how much housing and stuff's going on. So, so we have an RTA B-list project, which is to extend Dublin from Peterson to Mark Sheffel. Right now, it's a hodgepodge of some lanes, one lane each way. And the intersection of Dublin and Peterson is very congested. So the city would like, right now, would like to signalize it and add some lanes on actually the three approaches to it. But being that it's on the B list, we wanted to make sure that, we think it's not bringing up a B list project, but we just want to get concurrence from the board, the CACN board on that. So we have a design for that, where we, add some lanes east and west, and then do some improvements on Peterson, and then signalize it. And it's about I think it's about $1 million. But we wanted to kind of see, is that, how you feel about that and the board, because we'd like to get authorization to do this work.
I've actually been harping on this for a long time. That is a very dangerous intersection, especially because you're going from 4 into 2, and you got stop signs, and there's a school right there on the corner. Although my understanding is the school is moving or whatever. But the question I would have is, what's the distance from Mark Sheffel to that intersection? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh, I think it's like, was it like 2,700 feet? And I think we're just going back, I'm not sure the distance, but basically we go to the east to, what is that road? Mustang, is that Mustang? We kind of start the improvements there and then kind of terminate them just west of Peterson.
Okay, the reason I ask is, and I know how some people feel about them, but do you feel that signalization of that intersection is better than, say, a roundabout of that intersection?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Anyways,
I'm very much in favor of getting this done as soon as possible, because the growth out there has been tremendous. I just sold a property right on the corner, and it's amazing to see. You can stand there and just watch what's going on, and people almost hitting each other because people don't know how to use stop signs properly. It's amazing.
Okay.
Cheryl, go ahead.
Mike, would the funds, this $1 million, come out of the program funds, or are you going to be able to do this project without affecting the A-list projects?
It would come out of the program funds.
Thank you.
Carlos?
Just to follow up on that, on the program funds, which program? Was it with the intersection improvements or signal upgrades? Which program?
I'm not sure. I know I was looking at traffic's plan list, and I can't remember offhand. I can let the board know, but it's one of those.
And you said this is also a B-list item?
Well, the extension from Peterson to Mark Sheffel. So we just wanted to make sure before we got going, we got the design done, but before we went out to bid, we just want to make sure that we had authorization from the board to go ahead and do this work.
Intersection safety improvements?
Or road, yeah, I'm not sure.
He said program.
Well, and I forget whether it's intersection safety or roadway and safety, but it's one of the traffic programs that we would be funding.
On the B list.
Well, no.
When I say that, that's one of the questions we did not get answered last month. Point is, if it is on the B list as a named project, and I don't remember, and I'm asking.
Yes, it is. The extension from Peterson to Mark Sheffel is a named B list project. What we're saying is we want to do some intersection improvements here, but rather than just assume what we're going to do it, we just want to get clarification that that would be okay with the board, the CACN board.
Tony?
So you're not looking to actually do that extension, you're not looking to do the project?
No.
You're looking to do the intersection?
Yes.
Let me say it in a blunt way. The B-list project is roughly 3,000 feet long, and the city wants to use program funds now to do the first 150 feet of a 3,000-foot project. Is that okay or not okay?
It's important. Hold it, Jim.
Is
It's-
150?
I'm not sure. It's probably no more, but I can find it out.
Well, okay, 175, whatever. Just in rough proportions, is it okay to do the intersection at one end of a 3,000-foot B-list project, just to do the intersection at one end only, do it now with program funds, yes or no?
So basically, it is a B-list project, listed project.
The 3,000 foot.
And that was one of the problems with it. Never mind. Joan, go ahead.
I agree with Brian. I think this project needs to go forward. It is a safety issue. Having spent the last couple of years to have the intersection light at Mark Sheffel and Bradley changed from a resting on red to a now signal intersection due to accidents and deaths. I am very much in support of this, and I think that this is the time to move forward with this.
Cheryl? No? Any other comment? Ed?
Yeah, I think one other consideration, there's a fire station there, and that impedes their ability to get in and out the way it is now, and I think this is definitely a safety issue that needs to be addressed.
I'm going to follow up with a question. I don't know whether it was Brian brought it up. Okay? Has there been any consideration given to a roundabout as opposed to a traffic signal?
I will double check. I think they kind of got with the consultant and decided that signalization is the best way, but I'll see.
Just asking. And as of right now, this was not a discussion, this was a discussion. It is not something we go forward to the board with any recommendation. So,
They will see the discussion, right?
I'm sorry?
The board will see some comments from our discussion when they take a look.
Oh, yes, I'm going to make.
Yeah, I would be looking at that. You just say that the CAC thinks that this is okay.
Rick?
I kind of like to send the board a hand vote on what we think of it, plus, minus, or plus and minus.
I'd just like to, just a quick question before that. I do want the plus or minus, or don't care. This wouldn't be a project that would need to be redone when the full project from Mark Sheffel to Peterson is completed. The 3,000-foot project, which is a B-list project, doing this intersection, it wouldn't have to be redone.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think we're, kind of looking at matching what the ultimate section should be, but I'll clarify
So
that.
this would be driving the design on the B-list project. This intersection would be driving the design.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Hold it. Tom?
Was this intersection included in the B-list description,
Yes.
or was this
Well,
intended to be done
the description
beforehand?
was the extension of Dublin from Peterson to Mark Sheffel. And
So it just basically nebulous on the terms, whether it was
Yeah.
from that intersection or 10
Yeah.
feet west of the intersection?
Yeah, it was kind of generic.
Is that it?
Well, just real quick.
No. Carlos is
Oh,
next.
okay.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on your comment, Mike. You said that, just kind of, is this okay? I think it should be clear to the board that this is precisely what these program funds for safety improvements are intended to be used for. That was the discussion last month, is that these generic items may not be appropriate, and it's our sense, if I hear everyone correctly, that this is precisely why we have these funds. When you have a lot of growth that may have not been contemplated in the past, and now we have a problematic intersection that's now presenting a safety problem, the city needs to have the flexibility to be able to make these spot improvements, and at the same time, it appears that we may be able to kind of get a head start on a B-list item. So I just want to make that clarification. It's not merely just we're okay with it. but this is an appropriate use of these program funds, and I think that should be, if you guys agree, should be, provide some clarity on that position.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was a question about the name of the B-list project. I think, Tom, you asked. It's Dublin Boulevard Extension, Peterson Road to Mark Shuffle Road.
And to my way of thinking, that includes an intersection at each end, because Mark Shuffle, it dies east of Mark Shuffle. Brian?
Well, and just for clarity for the record, at that intersection is exactly where it goes from 4-lane divided highway into, or parkway, whatever you want to call it, into a 2-lane. So it's 2 lanes between Mark Shuffle and Peterson on Dublin, and then at Peterson and Dublin, it becomes westbound 4 lanes divided. So that should explain why this is kind of necessary in advance, and the safety is a huge issue there.
Any other comments? Scott?
I'm just going to let you know I need to abstain from any vote on this, on the design.
You got a nickel? Oh, well. Never mind. No. In all seriousness, Gene?
I'll try to be brief. Carlos hit several of the points that I would have mentioned, and I support his view that I think that this is exactly what some of the project funds are intended for, and that coming from somebody that's pretty critical of the project funds. The one thing that I do believe needs to be done is that the board needs to have assurances that the design and implementation of this intersection, assuming they approve the project, matches up with the design of the extension of the Priority B project, so that we don't spend money now and then throw away some of it.
Well, it's always our intent to do that now. The thing is I don't know if we have a design for the extension, because we're not supposed to be working on it, but obviously we have some idea, so we'll clarify that and make sure that we always work to minimize what we call a throwaway, but when you phase things, there's always some element of that, but we really work hard to minimize that.
Rick, the ballot initiative, List B, it doesn't seem making it a 4-lane from Peterson to, okay, I'm just asking. All right, there has been a point, and Rick made it, and I appreciate it, because I don't know how Jim does it, but he always leaves a question that gets put before the board, and he's not here to explain it either. We want to count. It's a hand count, and that's all it's going to be. It's no reasoning or anything. I'll just use the general terms to the board for their recommendation. It's not a recommendation is what I'm saying. It's a vote that you would approve it for whatever reason. Gene, because he agrees with Carlos, isn't an excuse. Or that Carlos twisted your arm isn't an excuse. Just, it's a straw vote, as Rick calls it. So basically, raise your hands if you're, say, a favorable recommendation or approval. All right. I don't think that's unanimous because he's abstained. Rightfully so. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And who's going to do Rock Rimmon?
No, that's Dave.
Which part of the engineering department is he from? Smart aleck.
Good afternoon. Once again, Dave Scalfrey with Operations and Maintenance. Corey Farkas is currently traveling with his family and taking some well-earned time off. And I'm being PC right now, so seriously. And actually, Cole, this afternoon, had the same opportunity to be with his family for a special event. So he asked me to step in and share some information on the Rock Rimmon roadway improvement. So if everyone turns your head to your left, or look at your packet. and we'll walk you through this information. This packet, the beginning, and the pictures, excuse me, are specific to the time period of August 15 through September 15. And then, I'm sorry?
You can go to view, and you can go to view, rotate up at the top, view.
You in the upper left.
Way at the top left, way up.
There you go.
File, edit, view. Third one in, file, edit, view.
It's the tab below that, not that.
Hey, go up there and help me, Brian. Karen, can I borrow your eyes?
I
She's
can't.
reading
Oh.
that thing. I can't even
There
see
we
it.
go.
Go to view. It's the
I'm-
third one
Yeah,
on the
I've
top.
got someone else.
There you go. View, down.
You guys all have it in your pocket
Hey.
Rotate.
Boom. Okay. Slideshow. Where's the slideshow icon?
I want her to come over here and do a visualization.
Okay. Let's just go with what we have here, folks. There we go. All right. Current work area is Rock Rimmel Boulevard, Vindicator Drive to Delmonico Pro Rodeo. The main focus through September 15th was on the north side of the road, which currently has a bottom mat throughout. This is an example on the north side of the road where the removal went all the way down into the subgrade and actually removing the expansive soil in preparation for replacing with a good aggregate base course. Everybody see this okay? Okay, we'll go back then. This picture actually is on the south side of the road. It's jumped ahead a little bit here, but anyways, this is a picture of the mill taking out all the way down to the subgrade, taking out that roadway surface. In a lot of pictures, you'll notice in here the asphalt depth is really thick. This road was built with some serious beef in it. However, with the expansive soil underneath it allowed for that extreme movement that we've experienced over the years with Rock Rimmel Boulevard, and therefore the need for this reconstruction.
Could I ask real quick, and I'm sorry to just jump in?
Sure.
You mentioned the amount of beef in the road because of the expansive soils. It seems that that's an indicator of the expansive soil. I mean, anybody who's built anything in this town in the last 50 years knows about that side of town going all the way down to the Broadmoor, and the clays and et cetera. Was engineering standards back when the road was originally redone? And I think that was, what, about 20 years ago?
Originally built?
Yeah.
I believe that would have been in the early to mid-'80s.
Okay.
Maybe even a little prior to that.
And so really all they've done since is just resurfaced?
We've resurfaced it, and that's it. And
Okay.
actually, since I've been here 18 years now, it was overlaid once.
Okay.
And so about 10, 11 years ago, it was due again, and it was like the thought process was, we do not want to throw good money
After bad. Yeah.
to just get a new overlay surface, and then within 2 to 5 years, wind up right back where we.
I love what you're doing here now. I'm just kind of wondering why nobody kind of foresaw this back in the day.
I'm going to guess I was in my 20s back then, and I can't. And as Reb commented, what engineering groups, like I'm not from an engineering group, so they have, and so for us and our team, from a maintenance perspective, we're really looking forward and really happy to be part of this project and to have the ability to take processes and hopefully make this a very long-term, long-life roadway project. One of the features I want you to notice, of course, this you can see the asphalt depth, and then the side of the wall right there is where that's actually new road base. But the wick drain, this drain, usually they are vertical, but this one is being laid in horizontal. It came in highly recommended from our engineering firm, And it is actually along the lines of a French drain. It lacks where it's encompassed in rock, and they say they perform very, very well. So this wick drain is being put on both sides of the roadway, north and south, to catch that groundwater and those issues that we're dealing with on Rock Rimmon Boulevard that have been contrary to a long life roadway.
Can I make an editorial comment? For your information on Cottonwood Pass, which I just went over last week, we put in a geomat. It's the first time I'd ever done it. It actually went to a depth of about 27 feet. It's for 1.5 miles west of Denny Creek, which is approximately 7 miles west of the turnoff to Cottonwood Lake and whatever. They have since come back in and put in this drain on the uphill side to take care of the water. And they have just repaved it after 30 years of construction. And they have, I guess they put in the drain. I was talking to an engineer about it because they suspended the building of the road doing the road on the west side to Taylor Reservoir. And they now have completed it. They suspended the operation for about 30 days, and then they had to extend it 30 days. They did complete it. It is now paved all the way to Taylor Reservoir, and they have put in a tremendous amount of geomats and a lot of French drains. So the system works, but it's, especially that drain, the horizontal drain was kind of a new thing for them, too. Sorry.
Thank you. Not at all. Appreciate your input. This is on Rock Rimmon. I believe this is Tamaron right here at the street sign, and then Vindicator is right at the traffic light. So you'll see that grid, that geogrid, the Tensar, I believe 7, that was placed there, and it will be full width. And then the new road base being placed over the top of that. I'm going to jump ahead real quick. We'll come back to these pictures. This is the same intersection. This is right at Vindicator. The dump truck and paver are actually pulling the opposite direction of what we were just looking at. You can see that asphalt depth right there compared to the tire on the vehicle. And this is the bottom mat being placed. Okay. Concrete crossband being placed along the north side of the roadway, along with pedestrian ramps, and the efforts to make sure that those new ramps are all in ADA compliance. This is down just west of Delmonico Drive, and you can see where the curb machine had placed the curb and gutter, and that is been a very successful operation for us, and looking forward to being able to get the same done on the south side of the road here in the very near future. So if you'll look at, if you will, look at this information here, and based on time, this is alarming that we only have 22% of time remaining, and with less than 50% complete in September 15th, excuse me. So that is alarming. These are the quantities of materials that were placed between August 15th and September 15th. And since this time, the contractors have shifted over to the south side of Rock Rimmon Boulevard, and they're making great strides in moving very quickly now, working their way up the hill from Delmonico, taking out the full subgrade or full down to subgrade, and then replacing material back in and hopscotching up the hill, if you will. And they are confident that they are able to hit the October 31st target date to be complete. So that being said, they are looking to make up for lost time. They are pointing the finger back to a lot of the weather days that we had back in April. If you remember correctly, May 22nd, we had a crazy Colorado blizzard. Holy cow. And so a lot of that really delayed the work for them, and now we've had really dry conditions. That's not good for fire. fire issues. However, it is helping out with this situation here with this project. So on target right now, or at least holding October 31st as the target completion, and that is with all things being perfect, Mother Nature, resources, and what have you. Yes, sir.
I assume that we're being overly careful and watchful, that they're not rushing
Yes, sir.
just to get this done on time, that they're actually doing everything they're supposed to be doing?
Please know this, that our quality assurance folks are all over it, and
Okay.
they will not turn away when there are situations that are less than correct.
Okay.
So, yes, sir, great question. I'm glad you asked that. Any other questions regarding the Rock Rimmon project? Karen?
I have some questions about that wick drain.
Yes.
So what's the diameter of that pipe?
6 inch.
Is it 6?
I don't know.
About-
They use 6 inch on the
I don't know,
mountain.
so I can't give you an
That's all
exact
right.
answer, but we'll go with what Reb is saying.
And then how far below the top of the surface is that buried?
That looked, I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm going to say it was beyond 12 inches below the pavement mat. It's probably deeper than that, though.
And is it like right underneath the joint between the gutter pan and the asphalt?
From what I saw in the picture and what I understand, it's going to be right there at that lip.
So it's kind of supposed to take whatever maybe drains through that joint?
It's going to, it's designed to take water, good question. It's designed to take water from whatever comes off the hillside and goes underneath the curb and gutter and under the roadway. But yes, the roadways a lot of times will get that gap along the toe of curb and the asphalt, and so that would help with that as well.
And then where does it drain to?
It ties into the storm system, so further down the line, it ties into the inlet structures.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Any other questions? Thank you. I'm sorry?
I just wanted to, there was a question about why we built the road that way. I've been with the city 25 years, and I wasn't 20 when I started. But back in the 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s, there was a push to do what they call full-depth pavement. So basically and I think this was kind of on the new development side, they would build roads and just say, well, let's put 8, 10, 12 inches of asphalt just on the clay and the bentonite. And they had, they had studies, pavement designs that showed that worked. Well, that hasn't worked in the clay. So the city for several years has gotten away. We actually don't allow full-depth pavement. We want gravel, road base, on asphalt, and then this geogrid, like here, is really helpful. So we're not building roads like that with a full-depth pavement. We found that putting gravel, road base, really makes a world of difference, especially on these roads. So that's what they're doing, and this should hold up much better than what was there before.
So the science and engineering is improved based on experience?
Yes, and I think, I think we kind of looked at, we experimented, and that didn't turn out very well.
Okay.
Rick?
Okay. So I have the change order log. Is there any questions on that? Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, 7F, the quarterly report from City Manager Springs. I just got that this morning from the interim public services director at Manitou. I put that at each of your places, 1 month overdue from all the rest of them that were last month. So this is John Merritt, who's the interim public service director, taking over for Shelley Cobow for a few months. He's not applying to be, well, I probably shouldn't say that publicly. He indicated that when I asked him for future reports, he said it wouldn't be him, so that tells me he's not applying to be permanent or the next regular Public Services Director. So that's 7F, that's just information. 8A is the report of the highlights from the board meeting. The memo's in your packet. Any questions? Okay. 8B was removed from the agenda. 8C is, as you remember, all the CAC membership is on staggered terms, so that not all the CTAB or HAC members are up all in the same year. So it's I've listed in the memo whose terms are ending on December 31. But please remember that the CAC members from member governments have terms, but no term limits. So CTAB, HAC, City of Mansfield Springs, et cetera, Town of Rayma, you could all ask your respective member governments to reappoint you. That's between you and them. We will await notification when they decide. Now, with regard to the at-large and at-large alternates, those are appointed by the Board of Directors. So Jim Godfrey and David Chestnut need to, if they want to, as those of you who have been around for a few years, you are term limited for 2 terms if you're at-large or at-large alternates, and the at-large regular is a 3-year term. At-large alternate is a 2-year term. But you can switch from at-large alternate to at-large regular and vice versa. So that's one option for David Chestnut and Jim Godfrey, is if they want to trade places, they will need to so request. No action needed. This is just mainly to inform those of you whose terms are up that you need to take some action.
It's nice when you're a volunteer and you're not actually getting paid.
Any questions? Okay. Then 8D is my quarterly staff field review report showing that I've driven around and looked at things, and if I found some errors, I hand strike it and note it on the attachments. Any questions on that?
Nope.
So then your agenda topics for next meeting would be the definitions of capital maintenance, for sure, and anything else.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, is there a status that, I know the county, Jim, should I direct her the question? We had it from the city, and then she asked to have it postponed. Do you have some idea when something might be decided between the two of you?
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I just, we from the county haven't been able to give it the attention I would like to give, and so this is an important issue in regards to maintenance versus capital. And so I've gotten together some ideas, and honestly, I personally haven't had a chance to take some time to meet with the city, so hopefully come back next month. That's my intention.
Hopefully.
Yes.
That's all I ask.
Yeah, I just, I think it's an important thing, and I think we need to make sure that we get it right. So
I've been told the city.
it's my fault.
No, I wasn't looking late rain, but I do hear that the city's got some extra money in their general fund to entertain consulting engineers at the Chop House. I didn't want to be heard.
Anyway, so I think the city's put together some initial thoughts. We have some other considerations that we'd like to discuss with them and Rick, PPRTA staff, and Just my schedule has been very busy, hasn't really allowed for that to occur.
Thank you, Jennifer. So that's a maybe for next month.
Hopefully.
I said maybe. Are there any other announcements? Tom?
I have a question. When Baptist Road Rural Transportation was still in existence, and they were trying to get the interchange with I-25 done, and the state said, we have no funding, the Baptist Road people went forward and funded it with repayment coming from the state. I noticed this morning that the Research Powers interchange the state says we have no funding. Could this be proposed as a potential ballot initiative for next year if the state still says we have no funding, to add that on, or to go forward with something with the state saying, we think your credit is shaky, but we'll still give you the money to build that road and you pay us back in the future? And I don't know if that's an agenda item or a question, frankly, but it's not going to get done evidently with the state, and it's of significant concern for the city. The other option would be good old program funds, because that's an intersection that needs a lot of work. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's enough money in the program.
I don't know.
The history on the Baptist Road overpass at I-25 was that the Baptist Road RTA, Berta, went to their voters, asked for a 1 cent sales tax, and simultaneously had an IG with CDOT to be paid back at some future date, undesignated. And then Berta floated the bonds and covered the interest and let the principal just hang out there. And I think CDOT paid them $1 or $2 million, so they were able to retire a little bit of the principal. But then just waited, and then all of a sudden, some years down the line, CDOT said, "Oh, we found $16 million, so we can pay you Berta off, so you can pay your bonds off." And then when the bonds were paid off, since the Pikes Peak RTA had done all the rest of the Baptist Road that was in the Baptist Road RTA scope, once the interchange was done and the rest was done, interchange was done by Berta/CDOT, and then the rest was done by Pikes Peak RTA, then Berta went away because they had no purpose to exist, because their 2 miles or 2.5 or whatever it is was done. So that's some history. So you're saying, would the Pikes Peak RTA, just like with the GAP project, float a ballot issue to pledge to CDOT some revenue for that interchange of Powers and Research, similar to what we did with the GAP?
Yes, I recognize it's a little bit of an apples and hubcaps comparison here, but we've got a significant problem in our community, and it's CDOT's responsibility, but they're not stepping up.
They're holding it hostage. That's the easiest way.
Jennifer?
Bev, do you remember how much was how much was our expense to the county clerk and recorder? Was it $300,000 or so?
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I think what you saw in the paper was a result of an update that was given to our Board of County Commissioners yesterday. So you may want to check that recording out. At that meeting, CDOT essentially has been working toward a shovel-ready project, and I think it's good to listen to that meeting because they also talked about potential funding sources that they are anticipating for that. Some additional Senate Bill 267 money that is going to be considered probably at the Transportation Commission in November. So and it is also going to be, CDOT is putting together a list that will be heard at PPACG, I think, in October as far as a priority. I know that this is a priority project, but what I do know in general is that this project has been advanced to, through the design phase, and this is many times what puts a project over the top and then is identified for money is that it's essentially shovel-ready. It gets really hard to, for the state not to find or fund a project similar to this when it's shovel-ready. So I feel that it has a good chance for future funding at CDOT. So I just encourage you to listen to the board meeting. CDOT did a great update on the project, and then I think that there's a good chance that this will be funded. So there's a rest of the story that was not in the Gazette.
They actually did a pretty good summary of it, and they indicated that it was Region 2's number one.
Yep.
Which is good, but they've been known to speak with forked tongues before. So, we're just trying to cover ourselves a little bit.
And I think there was a question by our Board of County Commissioners, and how can we urge CDOT to do this, and that was some of the discussion, to CDOT staff, how can we, the Board of County Commissioners, help get that funded? I know that it's Commissioner Holly Williams, in the southern part of her district, and she's working really hard to push that project. So I think, before we spend a lot of time and effort here, it might be good to see what happens in November with the Transportation Commission as that is being considered for funding.
What was it was BOCC?
Really, Brian?
It was Tuesday that was presented.
Tony?
Okay. Do you know, off the top of your head, Jennifer, how long they plan that project to take once it does start?
Nope. And I'm not going to speak to it. What I'm going to speak to is something that I can factually state. I don't want to represent CDOT here. I know that this was discussed at our board, so I encourage you to listen to that board. It's on our website. You can download it, and I think it's a good summary of where they are. And there was a good discussion towards the end of that in regards to the funding.
Any other communications? Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, okay.
I saw him.
So I'd say don't let it drop off the radar, but if you want to keep bringing it up month after month, keep the pressure on CDOT, but if at some point you want to press forward through the CAC to the board with a potential ballot measure, of course, where are we? We're too late for November, but it'll have to be next year.
Anything else? I am proud to say we got done in 1 hour and 54 minutes. Adjourned. Hey, that's got to be near a new record. We're late.
You missed, we made your 2:30.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is. I'm sorry.